Welcome back to another video, and today we have the 5 most overrated towers in BTD 6. This was requested on my last video, the 10 most underrated towers by Alison Smith, and I thought it only made sense to do the opposite of what I did last time. I actually found this a whole lot harder to do than the 10 most underrated towers. I think that was quite easy, and I just went through the ones that I like and people don't talk about as much. But with this one, there was a lot of towers I thought that were worse than they are. Especially the comment said Mad. I tried Mad, but Mad is just a really good Moab killing tower, so I couldn't pick that. There was a few others, but we don't need to get into them. They were all good enough to make it out of the list. Let's begin. Started into number 1, and that would be one of the more less rated ones, but I still think it's overrated, and that is Moab. Now, I know a lot of people that play the game or have played the game for a while do not tend to use Moab, but a lot of new players and a lot of players that, you know, have just started the game enjoy Moab, and that's because you like a gun that does a lot of damage, and it is pretty good against Moabs, but for the price it costs, it's about 7 to 8k in easy, which is closer to 10k to 11k in poppable, which is a lot of money. You can see how it doesn't do as much damage as it should for that price range. So maybe it is just a bad tower and not exactly overrated, but as you can see, it is very good on a long track, but obviously it's a sniper again, so it has to be able to see the whole track, and not every track has that. This is also against level 1 Moabs. I think I have it against super surrounds and other things like that later. I'm not 100% sure, but as you can see, it's decent, but not really as good as it should be, and it just uses Moab maulers and they would do way more damage. I think it's also important to mention the time that a balloon is on the track is very important to how much damage it will do, so very fast balloons like purples just make it past no problem really. But I guess you're not really buying a Moab mauler for purples. The next tower we have is one that I've always thought is quite overrated, and that is Operation Dartstorm. This also leads into the tier 5, but definitely into the tier 4. To be honest, I don't have much to say. You can see that the balloon popping power is weak. Obviously it focuses on Moab popping power, which is its strength, but you'll see even on the tier 4 and tier 5, the Moab popping power just is pretty decent, and then it can't really finish off the surroundings that come out. And especially against super surrounds, you'll see later with the tier 5, which it really should be doing better against, especially with, you know, the amount of bullets it shoots. It just isn't that good. And again, it's quite expensive, being like a 5-6k to a 30-40k tower in easy. That's just too much to do that little damage. In terms of it being overrated, I've had a few people mention to me to use the tower before. I mean, it's less talked about now. Maybe it did get nerfed, but as it stands, it's a overrated tower for really anyone talking about it. The next tower I actually don't have any video for, and that's because it's a farm. And what farm could it be? What farm's overrated? The bank. The bank was pretty good back in the day when you could deposit on the basic bank, but now that you can't deposit, it is next to worthless. That's why IMF farming is really good. But at the end of the day, it might make more money overall than a 203 or a 023, but you have to remember that with a 023 you can continue to make farms between the time that the bank would take to get from 0 to 7.5k with the knowledge. So I think it's very good, but you can't keep placing farms with the money you make from the farm while it's going, and really you're just going to go to IMF farm spam, and that makes sense, and that's why I'd say banks aren't really that good. Again, I can't really say that was a very much rated one, but back in the day it was very highly rated, and I still think people still look at it as how it was back in the day, and obviously it's not, so that's why I say it's quite overrated. Now, for a tower that I think is very highly rated and I don't think is very good, and that's Permaspike. Now, I haven't made the perma spike here the best perma spike you can make, but still I got it to its maxed out amount of spikes, and I can show how much damage it really does. Now let me not say perma spike is bad, but some people think perma spike is the best thing under the sun. Perma spike's good, and perma spike's a very useful tower to use, but again, you should look at it as it is, and that is a tower that costs 30k in a harder game mode that does a maximum amount of damage when it takes like 20 rounds to get all the spikes out that you're going to get. I can check that, but once it gets touched and once balloons have to be stopped by it, it becomes severely weak, and then it's useless. It's literally pointless after it's used up all of its power, and it won't be good again for 20 rounds, and a tower like that is basically used as a final stop. Here I show how many balloons it stopped. So this is around 90 reinforced Moab, and it stopped about, let's say half of them. I did an approximation and it seemed about half, and not really good enough. So we're coming up on the final tower, and this one really pains me to say because it's actually one of my favourite towers, and that is the tack zone. You've seen me use it a lot in a lot of my tutorials, but with the recent nerf that they put on the tack zone, it's really hard to favour it. And obviously I still think it's good, and the only reason it's not good is because of, or overrated, is because of how high it's rated. But with that nerf, it just doesn't do enough damage to ceramics, super cerams, and you can really see that. If you didn't see the nerf, it just reduced the balloon damage and not the Moab damage. But as you can see, against Moabs it's just as good as it always was, but against any other balloon, it just is too weak, and especially when it can't pierce all the way through. So maybe if you did lob it with a primary expertise, it still was pretty decent, but without it, it just doesn't pierce enough, and without the damage, it doesn't do enough. But I still do enjoy the tower, it's just rated so highly for me. I think it has to be classed as an overrated tower now. Who would have thought the day would have come? Well, that's the list done, and that is it. Thanks for watching. I hope this was interesting to watch at least, and hopefully you have some opinions that differ to mine. I'd enjoy you to put them down in the comments, and I will try and respond, but I'm sure there'll be other people in the comments also responding to you, so we'll see how that goes. Also, if you are new, to consider subscribing or join the Discord. That's where a lot of my video suggestions come from, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.